Update. My 32 male wife's 30 female friend cheated on her fiancé at her bachelorette party. My wife doesn't think it's that big of a deal. Help? Original post. A few weeks ago, my wife went to Miami for one of her best friend's bachelorette parties. After she got back, I overheard a conversation between my wife and another one of her friends who was also at the bachelorette party. Long story short, the bride-to-be cheated on her fiancé while she was there. She met the guy at a club, took him back to her hotel room, and they had sex. I was shocked. To me, this was a big deal. The wedding is in a few weeks. But my wife didn't think it was that big of a deal. She said the bride shouldn't have done it, but it was just sex with a guy she'd never see again. Just one last fling before her friend settled down. Nothing to call off a wedding for. I could not believe what I was hearing, and my thoughts immediately turned to my wife's own bachelorette party. She went to Vegas for the weekend with the same group. If she didn't think it was a big deal, did she hook up with someone while she was there? She swore on the life of our daughter that she didn't. She admitted to dancing and flirting, but nothing more. This led to a larger conversation about her thoughts on emotionless sex. Another shocker was that she admitted that if I were the type of guy who would be okay with her sleeping with other guys, she would probably do it. She knows I wouldn't be okay with it, so she has never brought it up. She again said that sex isn't love and that she has always been able to sleep with men and not get attached. Her friend thinks the same way. Now, I'm not thinking about divorce, but I feel like my entire world has been turned upside down. What does everyone think? Edit, I wanted to add one more thing that gives a little more insight into her thinking. She mentioned that if I had an affair that was purely physical, she would be able to forgive me. But if it was emotional, then it would be over. I'm the complete opposite. If my wife had an emotional affair, I'd see this as something I could fix. I don't know if that's just a guy thing or not. Now for the top advice before reading the update. My friend banged a guy. Me? Oh, I just danced and flirted. And by the way, I'd be totally up for banging random guys if you're cool with it. OP, please read this comment a few times. That would be enough of a difference in morals for me to heavily consider divorce. And I've been married to my wife for 7 years, and we have a kid. I wouldn't want someone like that raising my children. Same. I don't think I could stay if my husband knew his friend cheated on his fiancée weeks before their wedding, and not only didn't think it was a big deal, but claimed the only reason he doesn't cheat on me is because he knows I would mind. I think it would lead me to the assumption that my husband does not fundamentally respect fidelity in marriage/relationships. I think I would consider this viewpoint to be as good as cheating. If it's no big deal, why hide it from her future husband? The argument falls apart right there. That and OP is gonna come back to the comment section with everyone on Reddit telling him it's pretty obvious his wife has cheated on him at some point. Gonna be a tough Thanksgiving for OP, lol. That's probably because she did the same at her bachelorette party, dude. Ask if she slept with anyone at her bachelorette party. When she says no, ask her why she didn't. She clearly doesn't think it's a wrong thing to do. If she says she didn't sleep with anyone out of loyalty to you, ask her why it doesn't apply here. Now for the update. Anyway, many of you told me to tell the fiancé. I debated it, but another one of my wife's friends, call her Claire, who was also at the bachelorette weekend, beat me to it. The whole scene was quite dramatic from what I heard. My wife and Claire were at the house of the friend who cheated. Call her Wendy. When the fiancé came into the room, Claire said to Wendy that she needed to tell him now, or she would. The fiancé pretty much knew what she meant, and basically broke down. There was a lot of screaming and crying. The fiancé took it really hard, and as of now, the wedding is off. My wife looked shaken when she came home. She ended up apologizing for making light of the situation, given how much pain it caused the fiancé. I told her, no kidding, and she admitted that her views on this were obviously much different than most people's. She gave me a hug and said she would never be able to live with herself if she hurt me like that. As for what happened at her bachelorette party, Claire was present for my wife's bachelorette as well. Claire and I have also been friends for years. I met my wife through her actually. So it stands to reason that she would have definitely told me if my wife slept with another guy during her bachelorette. So I suppose I'm satisfied for now. Your wife sounds somewhat low empathy, but I suppose if this concrete event of seeing others' significant distress and pain over infidelity taught her some empathy/compassion, that is a good thing. And store this memory in your mind though, as she doesn't have a solid moral compass clearly. The status update is very dramatic, but it doesn't get at the issue of whether OP and his wife have defined cheating and set boundaries in their own marriage. It is doubly important that they do this, since OP's wife doesn't seem to be on the same page as him. Good point, but I will say this is clearly a monogamous relationship, and obviously banging a random dude and lying about it while you're in a monogamous relationship is cheating. So your wife had to have a front row seat and experience firsthand the devastating effects of cheating in order for her to finally understand why cheating is wrong, horrible, and cruel? That's still hella sus. I would never look at my wife the same way again, but if you guys are able to work past it, then all the more power to you. I hate that I agree with the sus part. Did she say she never cheated, or only that she didn't want to hurt you that way? Because if she cheated, she could avoid hurting you by never telling you. I would still have a look at the phone bill and messages. Have a heart-to-heart with Claire too. I agree it looks hella sus. Even if the friend Claire seems like she would out any cheating, it's also been a bit since the wife's own bachelorette party, and they now have a kid. If the wife was faithful or not back then, everyone is now looking at the family dynamic and keeping quiet about any possible infidelity. Last story. Update. I feel like my husband, 26 male, puts things off until I, 26 female, ends up handling things myself. Original post. My husband and I have had a rocky relationship. It's been 3 years since we got married, and I always hoped it would get a bit easier. I feel like we've tried a lot of different things to improve our relationship, but I often find myself feeling defeated and sad because it seems like nothing will ever change. Right now, we're in the process of moving. I stayed behind to finish things up at our house, and he's gone ahead to start working. We're literally starting from scratch. I sold everything, including our cars. We need to have a car, so I asked him to buy one and have it ready for us once I'm ready to move. He's met me with so many excuses, and I'm just tired. I'm finally flying to meet him next week, and there's still no car. It's been a month. He mentioned to me offhand the other day that he was planning on buying a car once I fly in. But doesn't that defeat the purpose? All I asked was that he had one ready for when I arrived. I really don't want to go car shopping the second I get off the plane. I was excited and hopeful about the move. We talked about how things were going to change, and he seemed so motivated. But now I feel defeated again. I don't even feel angry anymore. What was I expecting? I'm not sure what advice I'm looking for. We get along pretty well when there aren't any big life decisions involved. He's a nice guy. I just don't trust him to take any responsibility in the relationship. I guess. Has anyone been in a similar relationship? How did it go? When was it finally enough for you? Is there anything that can change? I'm really interested in starting couples therapy, but I'm afraid of putting effort into something that might not even work. Now for the top advice before reading the update 3 years later. My husband and I have had a rocky relationship. It's been 3 years since we've been married, and I always hoped it would get a bit easier. Hoping things get better almost never works. You said you had taken steps to improve things. Does that include counseling? If so, it is important to note that he has to want things to improve for them to get better. Based on the example behavior you provided, he sounds lazy, and I doubt he wants to improve your relationship. I don't even feel angry anymore. What was I expecting? If you've hit this point, it's probably time to cut your losses and move on. I'm sorry and good luck. Another point to consider is how he is in day-to-day life. Does he help with the chores? Does he take care of the bills? If not, he's most likely just lazy and wants to have a mommy to guide him through all the adult stuff. If not, maybe he has some kind of anxiety about doing big things without your input. Buying a car is a big thing. It should be discussed and agreed on by both parties. Maybe it's simply not a good dynamic and could be resolved by talking or getting some counseling. Hi, thanks for commenting. Everyone has been really helpful so far. There was a time when my husband wouldn't help out with chores or bills. I was cooking, cleaning, and working full-time while he got to play games. I do think he's gotten better, but there are a lot of times I still feel like I do more. I'm trying to be patient. I know people don't change overnight. It's just hard. I think I still have some hurt feelings from that time. Looking at it now, I think I hoped that if I asked him to do something more important, maybe he'd take it more seriously and be excited to contribute. I realize it's a big decision, but I've always been willing to talk about the financials and other details of the purchase. I think I would have really appreciated seeing his effort in taking over this decision. I've talked to him since posting this and we've gone over more details about the purchase, and he's actually made an appointment to start looking for cars. I'm still not 100% sure if it's purely an anxiety thing or if he is just coasting along with me, but I'm planning to organize my thoughts and talk openly about how this has made me feel once we're together. Thanks again. I've been thinking a lot about the situation. I appreciate it. My husband was bipolar and didn't take meds and was exactly like this. Not only did it start this way, but it got worse even after I had my son. I worked full-time, did all the errands, cleaning, cooking, and cared for my son. You need to put out an ultimatum, and if it tries short-term and then goes back to his old ways, cut and run. And get short-term changes, promises, gaslighting, the works. Listen to your gut, not the hope. Thanks for commenting. Bipolar disorder does run on my husband's side of the family, but I hadn't considered it. Thanks for sharing. I hope things are going well for you now. Now for the update. Hi Reddit. I made a post 3 years ago about my husband not taking the initiative when it came to purchasing a new car after a big move. My post didn't get too big, but I've always liked seeing updates, and a lot has changed in 3 years. So, I decided to log back in and make my own. After making the post, my husband made an appointment to go look at cars. I remember feeling really good about everything at that moment. I felt a huge relief knowing that this big thing was finally getting taken care of. When his appointment came, my husband called me to tell me some good news. He had seen one car, decided it was good, and told me that this was the one we would be buying. While he was still in the dealership, I asked him to tell me the details, like how much the interest was and how much the car cost. I asked him if he had compared it to Kelley Blue Book to see if it was a fair deal. My husband was kind enough to ask the salesman everything, but after each question he added, "I'm sorry my wife is making this so difficult." I was pretty hurt and embarrassed by this and told him so, but he said all my questions were frustrating and were slowing down the process of the one thing I had asked him to do. In the end, he decided to wait for me to arrive so that we could sign for the car together. I ended up getting picked up from the airport and taken straight to the car dealership. We got a good interest rate on a car, but we ended up overpaying by about $7,000. I should have said no to the car and just looked myself, but I was young and embarrassed, and I felt like I wasn't being supportive. Thankfully, that car ended up being our only shared piece of property in our divorce. I didn't trust him to refinance the car, so I ended up taking it. We owed so much more money on that car than it was worth that I couldn't get it refinanced for several months. I ended up trading it, and even though I'm still in the hole financially because of it, I am so much happier now. We did try therapy before ultimately divorcing. My ex-husband was quite the prodigy. He was cured, his words not mine, after a week. He said that he had it all figured out and didn't see the point in continuing. He also told me that he was the only one who had ever put any effort into the relationship and that it was 100% my fault that we were divorcing. He told me that no one would ever love him again if I left, and that he might as well off himself because there was no point in going on. When that didn't work, he said that no one would ever love me again, and that I was lucky he had stayed around as long as he did. He then asked me if I would forge his signature on the divorce documents because I was basically forcing him to do it anyway. I did not. Anyway, I'm happy to report that he was successfully able to move on from the trauma I put him through. He's still around, but I've kept my distance because I can't be bothered, so I'm unsure of what he's up to. I was able to find someone after some time. My boyfriend is so kind. Sometimes I feel like it's too good to be true. Then again, I get Twitter padded when he does simple things like taking out the trash, cooking, or maintaining a full-time job. So the bar is in hell. He's a great guy, and he does more than the bare minimum, I promise. Looking back, I knew that I wanted a divorce. I just wasn't ready to admit it. My ex-husband doesn't love or respect me. I didn't put many details about the relationship in my first post, and I don't really feel the need to put it all out there now. But I know now that if someone truly loves you, they make sure you know. Thanks, Reddit. You were right. Walking out on a marriage and untangling everything is really hard to do. You got married too young. It is amazing that you were able to do it. Enjoy your new life. P.S. The cured prodigy will find another poor woman who will live your same story. I very much hope she spots the red flags before it's too late. I feel like I dated one person and then married someone completely different. It was very surprising. Google weaponized incompetence girl. That reminds me of a post about the bathroom deep clean. The poster had a husband who didn't pull his weight at home or in their relationship. She's been asking him to clean the bathroom for ages, but he just wouldn't, or he'd half-ass it. So for her birthday, she caved and asked for a professional deep clean. She expected him to Google cleaning companies, shop around a bit, get a good deal, make an appointment for the clean, and pay for it. He couldn't do that for some reason. She reminded him, and he said he'd look it up, but never did. On the day of her birthday, he finally Googled it, loudly exclaimed it was ridiculously expensive, and said he'd do it himself to save money. So, he half-asked the cleaning job again. That was the last straw, and she divorced him. Yay you! That line about how nobody else would love you. I'm so glad that you didn't buy it. He must have been desperate to say that. He said a lot of things to try and guilt me into staying. I didn't realize how often he used that against me until separating from him, and it became so obvious. He said it a lot more subtly when we were together.